morning. It's Viewpoint. It's Wednesday morning, 8:15. Ready? Mrs. Busby's preparing for her program over here this morning. Good morning, Mrs. Busby.
I work better when my back's against the wall.
You do there very well. I believe you're enjoying something that was sent by one of our roving reporters.
And it was sent especially to me. This is my very first email because, of course, as I've mentioned before, I'm computer illiterate. And this is all directed to me. It's just exactly me. It says, tech support. I need you to right-click on the open desktop. Customer, okay. Did you get the pop-up menu? No. Okay, right-click again. Do you see a pop-up menu? No. Tech support. Okay, sir, can you tell me what you've done up until this point? Customer, sure. You told me to WRITE, click, and I wrote, click.
Right click.
That'd be me. Tech support. Okay, at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, can you see the OK button displayed? Customer, wow, how can you see my screen from there? It's so me.
And those came from your roving reporter?
Yes, Ms. Harvey.
Yes.
She's up there in Wisconsin with Jan Janssen, and she sends these things to Bill all the time, but this time I got my very own.
Yes, that's right. Well, she's thinking of you. On a serious note, and thank you, Lois, for that. Judith enjoyed that. There's an article, a column, and lady's name is Mary Beth Hicks. And it has to do with this occupying all these places like Wall Street and all these knotheads that get out and demonstrate and so forth. She says, call it an occupational hazard, but I can't look at the Occupy Wall Street protesters without thinking, who parented these people? As a culture columnist, I've commented on the social and political ramifications of the movement, now known as OWS, whose fairyland agenda can be summarized by one of their placards: everything for everybody. Thanks to their pipe dream platform, it's clear there are people with serious designs on transformational change in America who are using the protesters like bed springs at a brothel. Yet it is not my role as a commentator that prompts my parenting question, but rather the fact that I'm the mother of 4 teens and young adults. There are some crucial life lessons that the protesters' moms have clearly not passed along. Here then are 5 things that the OWS, that would be the Wall Street protesters, mothers should have taught their children, but obviously didn't, so I will. Number 1, life isn't fair. The concept of justice, that everyone should be treated fairly, is a worthy and worthwhile moral imperative on which our nation was founded. But justice and economic equality are not the same. Or as Mick Jagger said, you can't always get what you want. No matter how you try to, quote, level the playing field, some people have better luck, skills, talents, or connection that land them in better places. Some seem to have all the advantages of life, but squander them. Others play the modest hand they're dealt and make up the difference in hard work and perseverance. And some find jobs on Wall Street and eventually buy houses in the Hamptons. Is that fair? Stupid question. Nothing is free. Protesting with signs that seek free college degrees and free health care make you look like idiots, because colleges and hospitals don't operate on rainbows and sunshines. There's no magic money machine to tap for your meandering educational careers and slow paths, end quote, slow paths to adulthood. And the 53% of tax-paying Americans owe you neither a degree nor an annual physical. While I'm pointing out this obvious fact, there are a few other things that are not free. Overtime for police officers and municipal workers hauling trash, repairs to fixtures and property, condoms, Band-Aids, and the food that inexplicably appears on the tables in your makeshift protest kitchens. Real people with real dollars are underwriting your civic temper tantrum. Your word is your bond. When you demonstrate to eliminate student loan debt, you are advocating precisely the lack of integrity you decry in others. Loans are made based on solemn promises to repay them. No one forces you to borrow money. You are free to choose educational pursuits that do not require loans, or seek technical or vocational training that allows you to support yourself and your ongoing educational goals. Also, for the record, being a college student is not a state of victimization. It's a privilege that billions of young people around the globe would die for, literally. A protest is not a party. On a Saturday night in New York, while making a mad dash from my cab to the door of my hotel, to avoid you, I saw what isn't evident in the newsreel footage of your demonstrations. Most of you are doing this only for fun and attention. Serious people, in a sober pursuit of social and political change, don't dance jigs down South 6th Avenue like the attendees of a Renaissance festival. You look foolish, you smell gross, you are clearly high, and you don't seem to realize that all around you are people who deem you irrelevant. There are reasons you haven't found jobs. The truth? Your tattooed necks, gouged ears, facial piercings, and dirty dreadlocks are off-putting. Nonconformity for the sake of nonconformity is not a virtue. Occupy reality. Only 4% of college students are out of work. If you are among that 4%, find a mirror, face a problem. It's not them, it's you.
Whoa.
She didn't hold back too much, did she?
No, just don't hide your light under a bushel. But because of my advancing age, having been born in 1939, I can think back to the Vietnam War era when there were a lot of protesters. And at one point, some commentator mentioned that they figured about 10% of the protesting group remembered why they were there.
Absolutely.
And I wondered about these people, how many of them remember why they're there, or how many came to the party.
Well, enough seriousness. I think we ought to introduce our guest this morning.
Well, I think so, but that's kind of serious too, actually.
Well, yeah, this is serious business.
Yeah, it
having
is.
her with us too.
Yes.
But
Jennifer DiPasquale is a registered dietitian.
And a frequent guest. We're happy to have her.
Yes. And she works at Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital. And this month, being November already, is diabetic month, diabetes month. And coming hot on the heels of Trick or Treat, we maybe should talk about whether there's any correlation between too much trick-or-treating and diabetes.
Well, good morning, everybody. As far as eating too much candy leading to diabetes, that's one of the myths surrounding diabetes. A lot of people think that if they eat too much candy or eat too much sugar, it's going to make them have diabetes. And while your diet is definitely a contributing factor, it's a whole group of, they call it the metabolic syndrome. It's overweight, inactivity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and a lot of times the inability of your body to control its blood sugar is happening while those other things are happening.
Now, is it something that can be passed on genetically?
Yes, absolutely. About 80% of people with parents that both have diabetes can expect to have that genetic propensity to get it. So therefore, their lifestyle factors are even more important to prevent its onset, or at least delay it for a very long time.
Conversely, some friends of mine had 4 children. 2 of them were very diabetic, and they couldn't think of anyone in either family, as they thought back, who was diabetic. So how in the world does that happen?
Well,
or wasn't that an appropriate question?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that might be a part of it. Where's the actual parent there? But in times past, 2 generations ago, we didn't have insulin. We didn't have the ability to really mainstream identify and treat diabetes. So there are probably a lot of people who had type 2 diabetes for many years and then ended up dying from a heart attack or a stroke. because those are things highly associated, and nobody probably ever knew.
Is type 2 the type that where the onset is later in life?
Well, that's how it used to be. It used to be called adult onset. That's why we call it type 2 now, because we see it with 10-year-olds who are obese and inactive and eat poorly. We see the onset in children. That's why they changed it to type 2. And then the juvenile onset, the old term for type 1, there are people who are 25 years old who have that diagnosed. We used to see it only in children.
So the things are able to change like a chameleon.
Right, and you can have type 2 for many years or for a short time and then end up needing insulin, and it's essentially type 1 at that point.
I'm sure that someone who gets thrown in their face by George, you're diabetic, is mighty careful. But how many of the people, as time goes by and they haven't died yet, they figure, I guess it's okay, I'll have a Hershey bar.
Oh, well, it's okay to have a Hershey bar. There's nothing wrong with having some candy. It's just in moderation, and the most important thing is having the education that you need to be able to do those things in a smart way.
Well, let's talk about that education. That'd be you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been a diabetes educator certified for about 2 years now, and I teach diabetes self-management education, or DSME, classes at Lincoln Hospital. We also do a diabetes support group, which is the third Thursday of each month from 6 to 7 p.m., although it's not going to be this month. This month it's going to be the 10th. Okay. The DSME, or diabetes education, is really, really important. Unfortunately, a lot of people, and like you were mentioning, Judy, well, I've gone all this time and haven't had any problems yet. That's what people tend to do. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that someone with diabetes can make, is to ignore it and think that they won't have to deal with it until they start having complications. Because the fact is that before you get the diagnosis of diabetes, your body has already been metabolizing carbohydrate and glucose poorly for about 9 years before you even got the diagnosis.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, really.
What can I ask would be some of the signs that you might be having a problem, or may there not be any signs?
For most people, see, type 1 diabetes, the kind where you need insulin from outside the body,
yes,
those signs are obvious. Most people are going to be very sick, going to lose a lot of weight, be very nauseous, dizzy, passing out, sweating, thirsty all the time, peeing all the time. Type 2 isn't as violent with its warning symptoms. There are a lot of people who get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes who may find that they've lost some weight and are feeling tired and maybe have been drinking a little bit more fluid and peeing a little bit more, but a lot of people don't have those symptoms. They just feel like, well, it's because I'm getting older, because I've put on some weight, I'm slowing down, it's hard for me to get around, I haven't been exercising as much, I just don't feel good. That's what a lot of people think, and that's why going to your doctor and getting that yearly checkup is super important, to get that blood sugar checked yearly.
How dangerous is this thing that I imagine most of us do? You know, anytime I've got a twinge someplace, I think, well, I'm not 29 anymore, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
Is that a dangerous thing to think?
Yeah, and, you know, that's why I'm a big proponent of going to see your doctor on a regular basis, get that yearly checkup, even if nothing's wrong, because a lot of things can have been working in your body against you for a long time before you show symptoms that something's really wrong. You know, going for regular checkups is really important. You know, what I wanted to get back to what I was talking about earlier about how people want to ignore symptoms until there's a problem. As far as diabetes treatment goes, early intervention is extremely important, not just to get the education you need so that you can prevent complications in the future, but also because our body has a memory. Okay, if you can think of it like that, our body has a memory when it comes to blood sugar control. And if you do not get your blood sugar in good control early on within the first 2 years of diagnosis, because remember, it's already been working its magic for about 9 years, okay, then the cells in the pancreas, which make insulin, will already have died off to a point where it may be extremely difficult to get it into control later when you start finally worrying about it. Early intervention, getting it in tight control within the first 2 years of diagnosis is real important, because if you don't do it then and then you wait until later and try and do it and you get your blood sugar under tight control then, you're at much higher risk for having a heart attack or stroke just trying to get your blood sugar under control, because your body has not been in control for so long.
Jennifer, is there such a thing as latent diabetes? In other words, a person having it in their system and maybe it never manifests itself, or will it always manifest itself in some form?
Yeah, there will always, if you get the testing done to find out that something's going wrong, you'll know that it's there. But yes, there are people, and I've talked to people who come and see me for education. They never have any symptoms. They're completely shocked. And for some people, it's a genetic thing, because there are people who have always eaten well, taken care of themselves, exercise, maintain a healthy weight, don't have high cholesterol, don't have high blood pressure, have good stress management skills, and they still end up developing diabetes. Okay.
Well, I guess that's what I was trying to self-describe as latent diabetic something. It's there, but it has never made itself known.
Right.
And the next question is, has to do with those in the winter of our lives. Notice I didn't say the fall. Seriously. Is diabetes a real problem for really older people? At what point, or is there a point at which you don't have to worry about it because something else is going to get you anyway?
Well, that's a personal decision for each individual. There are some people who do not get diagnosed with diabetes until their mid-80s or later, and for those people, if they've already I don't want to sound crass, but if they have already exceeded life expectancy by many years, and they choose not to treat that issue, just like any other health issue that might come up, that's their choice. But we do see it more frequently in people who are older, just because you figure that pancreas that makes the insulin
hard.
It's been working for a long time, just like all the other organs in the body. As we get older, our heart doesn't pump as well, our kidneys don't filter as well. It's harder to get lung capacity. Our pancreas gets worn out a little bit through age too. So that's why we see a lot more coming out in the elderly. See diabetes more frequently.
Well, it's safe to say, excuse me, honey.
No, please.
It's safe to say that diet is of paramount importance as you're trying to control a diabetes condition. Would it be also concomitant with regular exercise?
The current consensus, and I am a dietitian with the word diet in there, but the current consensus is that moderate eating, not even following a strict diet at all, moderate eating with significant exercise is the best way to treat.
Well, that's kind of a segue for the question I wanted to ask. It would appear to me that children aren't nearly as active as they were. Like my kids aren't very young anymore either. But my golly, they were outdoors all the time, having some big ball game or something. And today, unfortunately, the wonder of technology keeps them pretty much indoors. And is that a contributing factor to diabetes in young people, or doesn't it seem to be on the rise?
Oh, it absolutely is.
And then why do the schools, when their back's against the wall, which it always is, knock off PE? Right,
that's a different soapbox for me. Yeah, activity is very important, and it comes down to the parents encouraging activity, going for walks as a family, doing something else to get the kids active. At least some of those games do have, like the Wii, where you're doing some exercise. They have dance programs and the sports where you're actually up and moving around. Those can be beneficial, especially when it's rainy and cold outside. But for the children, it is definitely, for type 2 in children, it's lifestyle. It's lifestyle related, absolutely.
Totally.
What would be the earliest age that diabetes could be detected in a youngster, baby?
Oh, at birth. At birth.
They can have it then?
Yes.
I have a friend whose
Would that be
son...
congenital? Not necessarily?
Well, I'm not an expert in that area, but the reason, like if a mother has gestational diabetes, which means diabetes as a condition of pregnancy, they monitor the baby because after the baby comes out, there still was all this extra insulin coursing from the mother to the baby, and they're at risk for low blood sugar. And some experts believe that the exposure to all that extra insulin while in utero, while the baby's still being made, can affect their carbohydrate metabolism. Because imagine, if as an adult or anyone with type 2 or type 1 diabetes, getting bathed in sugar and bathed in insulin makes our body less effective to be able to control our blood sugar. The more insulin we produce, usually the less likely we are able to use it. Okay. We call it insulin resistance. That's usually with type 2 is insulin resistance, whereas type 1 is insulin deficient. You don't make enough, don't use it enough.
A bad pun. This is a very weighty subject, and at this point in time, we probably need to acknowledge some sponsors. Before I do, Jim, normally we try to make a kudo or two at the beginning of Viewpoint, and I got so engrossed in my social commentary by this, I really want to get that out. It's so on target. We ought to mention the Woods Foundation again, Mrs. Busby. Once again, they have risen to the top, making a significant contribution, again, as noted in this morning's media. And we thank you, gentlemen, on behalf of the entire community for your alertness to trying to help the community in the ways you do. Let's take a little commercial break, Jim.